a podcast I listened to called The Heart has just wrapped up a mini-series called Silent Evidence. It's about a woman called Tennessee Watson who is trying to find closure about some sexual abuse she went through as a child at the hands of an adult. I got to the end of it and I just kind of lay in bed and I had this little fantasy in my head about some future time when I'm lying in bed with my future boyfriend and he asks me about sexual abuse I've gone through. Because it was so gratifying to hear this woman kind of like face something she went through head on and try and process it as an adult. I was thinking it would be really nice to tell someone about that and that maybe someone would ask me one day. And then I realised that no one has ever asked me. And I don't think anybody will ever ask me because people don't ask about that kind of stuff, even someone you're close to. And then I wondered how many people I'm close to have stories of sexual abuse that they don't talk about. And it's not because they are hiding it or they're ashamed of it, it's because nobody asks. Because no one feels comfortable asking, because it's vulnerable, because it's intimate. But those stories are what makes us, and they're what contribute to how we treat sex and how we treat relationships and intimacy and so many things. And they're just brushed under the carpet unless you want to come forward and accuse somebody of something, which most people don't want to do for a variety of reasons, some obvious, some not. Anyway, this isn't me like accusing people of having done things to me. This is me realising that no one's going to ever ask me about these things and they affect me, and I'm doing the millennial thing and putting them online because they're things that I've had to process and I'm still processing and influence me. So I'm going to talk about 4 things that have happened to me in my life, all people that I knew, 2 of whom I still know. Yeah, just gonna get it out. The first one happened when I was 10 years old. I don't want to talk about it a lot because it's pretty close to the bone still, and it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal. I also don't want to talk about it because at the time I told my closest friend in secrecy, and she told like everybody, and then it was some joke, and I was like, no, this actually was pretty serious. And I don't like the fact that 1, it was treated so lightly, and 2, people joked about it. It's not cool. I don't want to talk about what happened there, but it was one of those things that made me realise, oh, I'm physically weak. Any man can do anything to me. Great. But also if I tell people, they either not believe me or not think about the consequences and how they're affecting me. I mean, I was 10. Was I 10? Could have been 9. A bunch of 10-year-olds knew. They don't know what to do with that information. But even like adults that I've told about it, and I told about it around the time, were like, nah. And that's the thing that I don't think has affected me. But of course it has. It's affected everything. The second thing happened when I was 14. We're doing this chronologically. I totally forgot about this because at the time I didn't even slightly label it as sexual abuse. But this was a night I will never forget, mostly because it was overshadowed by something completely different that's unrelated. But I was 14, it was a school dance. I decided to bring half a bottle of Cointreau into school and get stupid drunk beforehand. There weren't many drunk people. I was by far the drunkest. At one point, a friend I was dancing with, who I'd like gone out with for like a week the year before, he was like, let's go down to the sports hall, run about, we've got energy or whatever. We go down to the sports hall. He was like, oh, I've never been to the like women's locker rooms, can you show me? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, I've never been to the guys, I wonder what that's about. So we went in there. I remember saying no a lot, and I remember being on my knees. That's it. Then the next Monday when I came back to school, massively overshadowed by the other thing that happened. Basically what happened is that he told his friends that I like bit his dick. He was like, she was going down on me and she didn't know what she was doing and she bit. And it was like a funny thing. It was like, oh, Charlotte's so bad at blowjobs. She fucking bit a guy's dick. And I mean, I don't really remember doing that, but my defense was like, I was really drunk, I didn't know what I was doing, maybe I did bite his dick, instead of being like, actually, I'm pretty sure that would have been a defensive thing to stop anything more happening. And again, brushed off, doesn't matter, did it really even happen? This isn't going to affect you long term. So I continued to be a bad child that drank. Next year when I was 15, one of my friends who didn't live too far away rang me up and he was like, having a little party, want to come over? I booked a taxi from my house, but then I was caught downstairs by my mum and she agreed to drop me off. And this was like midnight and I was being dropped off at a guy friend's house where there were 5 other guys. So I'm the only girl. And I think I'm the one that's invited because I'm the most kind of like up to have a bit of fun, have a laugh, have a drink. And this is again something I completely blocked out until about 2 years ago. I just completely forgot this happened. So I'm really drunk with these 5 guys, and one of them, his name was Sam, I'm just gonna say his name, fuck it. He was trying to get off with me. We probably kissed, I'm not sure. I remember at one point being in the same sleeping bag as him and him touching me in a way that I didn't want to. But then I remember very strongly being in the kitchen alone with him and him pressing me up against the counter with his hand down my pants, and him saying, I really want you, and me saying, I don't want you. And then I very strongly remember saying, like, you can have my body, but you can't have, like, me. Like, if you want this, like, I'm just gonna fucking check out. And it was like a weird, flirty joke struggle. Obviously, I was highly uncomfortable. I don't know how I managed to, like, say the one thing that I think could have stopped him and made him really realise that, oh, this isn't something she wants, is that if I do this anyway, oh, it's blatantly going to be, you know, rape or equivalent because, you know, she said she's going to mentally check out. But, you know, go to sleep at some point, wake up, no big deal. What happened last night? Lol, we were drunk. This is around the time I started trying to be more conscious of how much alcohol I had when I was around men. This lesson was in just kind of don't trust people. I knew this guy, I knew he was capable of doing something like that. I knew that me going to this house was probably, you know, something untoward was going to happen. I did it anyway because I was a stupid fucking teenager. And there you go, qualifying my abuse. There we go. We were never taught in school that those things are unacceptable. They were like, don't rape people. That's it. No actual education about sexual consent. It was, daily I wish I could go back to my school and be like, hello, I'm here to teach a class on consent. Can you gather all of your youngsters? Anyway, 4th and final story. This was when I was 19. So I was with this guy. We weren't really dating. It was like a new, fresh thing. Both pretty excited about it. There was like a weird power dynamic that we kind of ignored. And everything we did was consensual. I agreed to it verbally. But then I found out a bit later on that he'd been lying to me about so many things. He had a girlfriend, even though I specifically asked, do you have a girlfriend? And I specifically asked, are you going out with this person who I think is your girlfriend? And he said no. And everything we did sexually, even though it was consensual in a court of law, was kind of like coerced by him. He needed to like stay over and be like, oh, it's 3 a.m. like. And then finding out that he'd been lying to me fucking broke me, because I'd given quite a lot to this guy because we were like having sex. And that's a thing that I don't take lightly, because I slept with this guy in the view that, oh, this is going to become a relationship. No, it's all lies. If I knew that he had a girlfriend, I wouldn't have touched him with a 10-foot pole. I wouldn't have even been friends with him. And I remember when all that came out, I was just like, I'm going to have trust issues forever. I think all of my issues with intimacy are a direct result of these 4 incidents. And it fucking sucks. Like, you can have commitment problems if someone broke your heart and cheated on you. But it's something very different when somebody is like using your body and you don't have control over it, and there are endless ramifications. And I just want to acknowledge that those things have happened to me, and that things like that have probably happened to every woman you know. I think you would be hard pushed to find a woman that hasn't had at least one incident where they felt uncomfortable in a sexual context, especially around men, because they're just physically superior. I would not classify anything that's happened to me as rape. I would not want to prosecute against any of the people that have done those things to me. But I would like to acknowledge that they happened and they matter. I know as a woman speaking up isn't easy, but I'd like to encourage you not to do that, but to think about situations you've been in, like really think about them and how they've impacted your life, and begin or continue the process of internalizing them, because they're important and they happen to you and they happen to all of us and they matter.